Just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Melinda Freevert. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently the Chief of Staff at the Bold Alliance. Hello, Matthew. I have worked in the political space for 15 years. In fact, this is the 14th year that I have been at Netroots. My first one was 2011 in Minneapolis. So yes, I've been doing this for a while. I've worked in both advocacy and electoral spaces. My first job was actually at Bold back when it was just Bold, Nebraska, organizing farmers and ranchers and city folks against the Keystone XL pipeline. I've worked at an intersectional feminist organization called Ultraviolet. I've also worked on a lot of campaigns in the electoral space, which is a very interesting and different cultural experience. And I would say, I've worked at small startups, and I've worked on digital teams of nearly 20 people. Most of my career was in digital until about 5 years ago when I moved over into admin and executive, where I really focused on people and culture. But I would say over those 15 years, I've worked with some really amazing, smart people who I would go into the trenches with anytime. And I have also worked with some people that I don't know if we have bleeping on the live stream, but I'm about to curse. So just if you're sensitive to that, FYI. But yeah, I've also worked with some real assholes. And so moving over into admin and exec, I just started thinking about that a lot more and what is it that makes people different, and are there things we can do in our workplaces that can mitigate for the assholes or actually prevent them from even happening? So I've been very invested in talking about management and people and culture for the last 15 years. And when you move into operations, you start to look at everything through an operations lens. I couldn't go to a concert without thinking about and I wonder how the band resolves disputes. There's no HR person, so who do they complain to when somebody else is pissing them off? And so I started when I started watching The Real Housewives and thinking about it from an operations perspective, and that's kind of the birth of this training. So if you were to ask me some basic Real Housewives stuff, I would say my favorite cast is Roslick. I think Salt Lake City has been crushing it the last 2 seasons. We will be watching some Salt Lake City vid in this training. And if you were asking me my tagline, it would be, I'm from Nebraska, so no, I don't coast. All right. So what we're going to cover in this training, so we're going to talk through in the first hour. I want to give some context to this, right? Because when I told my friends that this was the name of the session, that this was what I was thinking about, they were like, that's weird and interesting. Why? So we're going to talk about the why, a little bit about our work versus our workplaces, and I think why workplace conflict in progressive and democratic workplaces is unique. And then why the heck we were talking about the Real Housewives and what the heck do they have to do with our workplaces. And then we're going to get into the actual hard skills where we talk about crucial conversations, which is really just a different way to talk about fighting. I'm going to reference this book, Crucial Conversations, the 3rd edition. It's by Joseph Grenny, Carrie Patterson, Ron McMillan, Al Switzler, and Emily Gregory. I have become a hardcore evangelist for this book. Instead of a Bible in all of our hotel rooms, I would put this. So we're going to go through the sections on defining what a crucial conversation is, how do you pick the right topic for when you're having a crucial conversation, starting with heart, and then mastering your stories. That is all stuff to do before you even have a conversation. And so we'll talk about resolving workplace conflict through conversations. And so that'll be the first hour. And then the last half hour, we'll do a breakout. I have some scenarios that are based on some real world stuff, but edited so that you can't tell who it really is. And we'll put those skills to the test and see what you can do as a Real Housewife. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll do a report back and do questions. So, all right. One other thing before we get into juicy stuff, just some norms. As noted, we are live streaming, so we are on the record. So just as I want everybody to be, as the other note says, no judge Judy's. I want people to feel free to share, but also know that this is on the internet, so what you say does not stay in this room. So just, think about how to anonymize any stories you want to share. And then no judge Judy's. I I think it's really important when we talk about workplace etiquette and culture that people can be vulnerable. So nobody in here should judge anybody for sharing a story where, like, maybe you don't look like the hero in the story. I will definitely be sharing some stories where I don't look that great. It's okay to share when we fell short. Those are actually the times where we learn the most, right? Also, there's going to be cursing in this training, as already noted. So both by me, and we have some Housewives videos where they definitely curse, though some of it's bleeped out. So just if you're sensitive to that, you've been warned. And then this is the world premiere of this training. So please help me make it better by leaving feedback with the Netroots folks. I'm doing this for the first time. And so the first time you do anything is the time where you do the most learning. So please leave that feedback. Come talk to me afterwards. What worked? What sucked? How much would you like me to not talk about myself? And then lastly, y'all, we are going to stop apologizing for how much we love Real Housewives and reality TV. A couple days ago, Michelle Obama was on Las Culturistas and shared that she watches these shows. If the former First Lady is into this, then like none of the rest of us have anything to be ashamed about, because she is class, she is smart, she's one of the smartest people in the world. Like, if she's one of us, we're doing just fine. So there will be no like, oh, my really like my guilty pleasure is like the Real Housewives. No, I love the Real Housewives. It is an amazing social study experiment. There are even like sociology professors starting to study the Real Housewives. There's so much to learn. We are smart and interesting people for watching these shows. All right. And then last prep item, I want to be very clear. When I say a model for resolving workplace conflict, this is not an endorsement of you should not throw wine at your coworkers, start rumors about them, or I guess I should add a third thing, since this was asked, flip tables at them. So please don't do those things. I'm not telling you to do those things. All right. So why the heck are we talking about this? So when it comes to our cultures in progressive and democratic workplaces, a lot of our work is focused on using hard power to drive change, right? Culturally, we see ourselves as underdogs. We're antagonists, and a lot of our work is fueled by outrage at injustice, and that drives a very clear good guys versus bad guys narrative, right? Like when I was fighting the Keystone XL pipeline, the pipeline company and the politicians who were in their pocket, the bad guys. There was no redeeming them, and we were the good guys organizing with farmers, ranchers, and values-aligned city folks against the pipeline to protect our land and water. Like, very clear, black and white, no gray area. And that is part of like what makes political campaigns successful, right? And organizing campaigns is you do need a hero and you do need a villain. When we're doing petitions or calling legislators, protesting, it's all about harnessing people's outrage at injustice to change the status quo. We don't always tend to have like deep relationships with our targets. And so I realized that I was using that same mentality I was using to organize against companies and politicians, and when I was working with like Faithful America, like religious right figures, I was applying that same mentality and framework and mapping it onto my coworkers when I had problems with them, right? It was the us versus them framing, and like whatever's going on, their intention is negative, and like they are my opposition, and I have to figure out how to win this. So I had really good organizing and campaigner soft skill or hard skills, but I did not have the social soft skills for my workplace that I needed. And I realized it was leading me to like lose and fall short on the things I needed to do internally at my workplace if I didn't change my thinking. So 2 things that changed that for me are the Real Housewives, the women who raised me, and also, again, the book Crucial Conversations. Yes, if I could buy this for every person who ever worked for me ever again, I would do it. And actually, maybe I should. I'm committing to that right now. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, who here actually watches Real Housewives or any other Bravo shows? Okay, some folks. It's also okay if you don't. You do not need that background. But folks who are raising their hands, what is your favorite show and why? Let's start it. Yeah, both of you.
I don't watch Housewives anymore, but probably Atlanta, New Jersey, because those were like one of the first ones that were on Bravo TV, and oh my gosh, it was just funny. I thought Sheree and her spring, fall, summer joggers, which I'm still waiting on. It was funny, and I thought it was very rare, at least in my experience growing up, to see like wealthy black women all in one place, like living lives.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yeah. What's been the most interesting fight on Potomac? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was my favorite moments. Oh, great. Thank you. Yes. All right. And then over here, let's have you share. What is your favorite show? Yeah. Yes. Okay, great. This counts. It's in the universe.
But I would say Salt Lake City is one of my favorites, and then New York.
Great.
Original New York, not the new one.
What do you find interesting about the Vanderpump Rules fights?
Just how unhinged and chaotic they are.
Yeah. They are. Okay, thanks. We can wrap up with the mic again. I won't put people on. Anybody else want to share what their favorite show is? Yes. All right. What did you say, Melissa? Oh, Melissa, you love Below Deck, which I think Vanderpump Rules and Below Deck are great. You know, those are workplace shows, and that's more obvious, right? But also all of the Real Housewives sets are also workplaces, right? While the title is Housewife, some of these women do already have jobs, and also being on this show is a job. So, because, right, they are cast members, and I do think the movement to unionize reality TV is a fascinating one and one we should support. But they're cast members. Many of them also use the shows to launch their own product lines, businesses, things outside of the show. Right, then people would say, I think if you ask a random person on the street or someone who wasn't a Bravo fan, like, what is a housewife's job? Like, it's to fight, right? Like, first and foremost, we know, like, their number one job is to start drama. But the other half of that is they have to know how to end them, right? I'm not a New Jersey watcher, but I have heard from the podcast that I love to listen to that, like, it's become really hard because the beef between the cast has become so intense and it's so divided, right? Like, I won't film with so-and-so is more likely to get you kicked off or not invited back to film another season. And so if, like, the TV show is how you plan to, like, make a living, then staying on that show is important, and figuring out how to make peace with people you are feuding with is critical. Otherwise, it's miserable. Right. And they're not just making money from shows. They're also making money from influencer gigs, businesses they're launching. I'm a Salt Lake City fan, but like Whitney and Meredith both have like launched many product lines from being on the show. Heather got multiple book deals. I think Paige DeSorbo from Summer House is like peak example of how you use the platform of a Bravo show to build your own business. She now is a co-host of one of the most popular podcasts in the world, a New York Times bestseller, and just launched a PJ line. Yes, I do have my Daphne outfit in my hotel room. So like there's real work attached to these shows. And so you can't just be good at picking fights and dishing out devastating one-liners, which we do love. I feel like the Atlanta ladies are some of the best in the business when it comes to that. But you also have to know how to squash the beef, as pictured by this literal photo from BravoCon with the headline, "Squash That Beef." Lisa Vanderpump talks about how the purpose of reunions is to bring the cast back together. And if you don't want to do that, you bail, which she did. And it's why she stopped filming on Beverly Hills. She also had built herself a life raft in the form of Vanderpump Rules, where she no longer had to be the person in fights. She was the parental figure watching the fights, orchestrating some of the fights. What is fascinating about these shows for me is that there are very few people who are forever villains or heroes. what brings viewers back, what brings me back season over season is like, I want to see if a hero is about to take a heel turn, to use a wrestling term, right? Like, is a hero about to become a villain? I did say we were going to stick to the Bravoverse, but like, I think Demi on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, right? Like, first season, star. Like, we were like, yes, she's a truth teller. Season 2, wow, she's like, the truth telling might actually be mean. And she doesn't seem to like get it with other people. Or are we going to have a villain who gets a redemption arc? Besties turn against each other. The Kyle and Lisa Vanderpump rift was like epic to watch. And sometimes, and frequently, enemies turn into allies, right? Cast members and producers have to be open to things changing. Or, you know, sometimes in annoying cases, they try to force things to change. Season 11 of Vanderpump Rules. But we have to have that same openness in our workplace, right? The person who is like pissing us off on a project because they're not meeting deadlines or giving feedback that's unproductive might also be the person that you need when you are trying to unionize your workplace. And so recognizing that like just as many of these folks that we love to watch on TV are multifaceted, so are the people we work with. They're complex. Some other similarities, right? The Real Housewives are trying to make great TV. We're trying to make a better world. Both of those are team activities. They are not a thing you can do on your own. Real Housewives never like all of their castmates. In fact, right, it's a sort of a big thing that happened a couple years in was like most of these women don't actually know each other when they come onto these shows. The shows force them to like, they sort of build that friendship circle. And some of them do become real friends. Some of them never do. Some of them are family members. But just as the Real Housewives never like anybody they're working with, unless you are a workplace of like 2 or 3 people, I also don't think we should expect that we are always going to like all of our coworkers. Like, that's just not going to happen. But how can we like exist peacefully with them is important. And then because at the end of the day, you have to decide like how much time are you going to invest in workplace beefs? And sometimes those beefs are real beefs that are like really worth fighting and figuring out. And sometimes we have to figure out how to have the conversation that gets us to move along to the next thing. So also on this, right, like even Bravo celebrities have limits. Again, don't throw wine at your coworkers. Also, like all the stuff, the crucial conversations and like how to squash beef that we talk about, this does not apply to things like abuse, harassment, discrimination, violating collective bargaining agreements, basically anything you would immediately call a lawyer for. This should not apply. Like, this is for resolving the lower stakes stuff. Because we all know, right, like Bravo celebrities have limit. Ariana refused to film with Tom Sandoval in the last season of Vanderpump Rules, and I think that was a super reasonable boundary to draw. You should not have to film with a person who lied to you for 6 months while he was cheating on you with your best friend. Right? It did cause cast tension, but like you can draw boundaries. Those are reasonable things to do. We've seen cast members do it. All right. So to move into shifting our mindset about how we think about addressing conflict in our workplaces. So I was in an all-staff anti-harassment training, and the trainer had us break out into groups to talk through a scenario like we are going to do later in this training, to discuss a scenario that to make it as brief as possible. It was basically about like a fictitious workplace where during like an all-staff event where it was announced that like people should put pronouns in their email signature to be an inclusive workplace, and older staff are like loudly declare she won't be doing that. People already know like what gender she is. And so our task in that training was to talk through how would you respond to that, right? Big open broad question. And so when we came back together to do our report out, folks started just saying like, well, I would talk to HR, or like I would go to her manager. I would call her out in the middle of the room, like all options, right? And then one person in that place, Topher Williams, who I will shout out because he's an amazing human being, asked the question, well, am I trying to punish this person or am I trying to get them to change? And like both of those are valid options. But like am I trying to get them to change, right? Like what am I trying to do? changes the choices you make in that scenario. And it was like my brain like was like explode. Like I was galaxy brain in that moment. I was just like, wait, like what if this is a persuasion campaign instead of an accountability campaign? And so that's when I realized like housewives are, again, it's not just good at fighting. Like they have crucial conversations because sometimes it's not about like how do I punish or get even with this other person. It's how do I figure out how to coexist with them or how to move on. So what makes a conversation crucial? There are 3 things that define a crucial conversation, again, according to my good friends, the authors of the Crucial Conversations book. So opposing opinions. I think that's pretty straightforward, right? But like you disagree on something. You have take A, the other person has take B. High stakes, right? So it's not just who's not rinsing their coffee cup and sticking it in the dishwasher can be high stakes depending on your workplace, right? But like it tends to be something a little more substantial. And then there are strong emotions, right? Like you probably all are maybe thinking about some specific workplace fights or conflicts that you've been in. And like, does your heart rate like start? Do you feel your heart rate going up and like your cheeks getting a little warm and like your feelings taking over? So those are the 3 elements. I think examples about it, right? Like on The Real Housewives, confronting someone about a rumor. They started with your husband. High stakes. You feel they shouldn't have done that. The other person says, well, I wasn't starting it. I was just repeating something that I heard, right? And strong emotions because it's about things that matter to you. Addressing cheating, ending a friendship, right? These are all high stakes, or these are all crucial conversations that we see on these shows. And then in our workplace, it might be something like getting passed over for a promotion, addressing offensive comments somebody has made, like I will not be putting pronouns in my email signature, giving your boss feedback. My heart always races when that happens. Critiquing somebody's work, talking to a coworker who's hoarding info, right? That person who like never lets you in on what's going on and it's making your job harder. All of these crucial conversations because they check those 3 boxes. So you're probably thinking about like something that might fit into this right now. So when we're going into a crucial conversation, there's some pretty critical prep work that has to happen. So first, we need to figure out what we're actually talking about. So what level are you going to have this conversation at? Content is like the first time this happens. You're addressing the immediate pain. It's like, this doesn't need to be a deep conversation. I just need to tell you, like, the way you spoke to me in that meeting made me feel this way. Let's talk about it. Pattern is, hey, I've noticed multiple times in meetings now that like you tend to speak over women in the room. Right now we're addressing a pattern. And then relationship is about something deeper, right? Like it is getting to like something that's not working in the relationship, whether it's trust, competence, it's a big thing in our workplaces, right? Or respect. So we're going to watch a clip.
For the past couple of years, Angie's been someone I talk to all the time. I care about her. I care about her feelings. I've had her back. I take her side. I feel like I'm such a good friend to her. And it shocks me that she cares so little about our friendship and my feelings that she would take things that I've shared with her in confidence and repeat them to Whitney. It's not only upsetting, it's beyond hurtful.
Thanks for meeting me. I didn't sleep well last night. I don't know how you slept.
Thank you.
Lisa, I left there and I don't think it really hit me till I got home, just how you guys were like, it felt like a gang up, you 3, you, Heather, Meredith.
I don't feel like it was a gang up. You took the conversation me, Heather, and you brought it back to Whitney. You and I have conversations that are meant just for you and me.
Yeah,
Not meant for everybody else. And you say things to
Yes.
me that I don't share with anybody else.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I need to make sure you and I still have.
I told Whitney what Lisa said, not because I thought Whitney was in the right for calling her a villain, but because I thought she probably owed her an apology so they can move forward. Listen, at times I do feel like I'm trying to do everything to prove that I'm a good friend to you.
For me, I just feel like we're good, and then I feel like these extraneous things happen, and like
You have made it hard at times, to be honest.
how?
I think other people in the group do have a fear that, like, Heather taking up for you last night was like, I'm gonna kill
was
you,
fun-
Lisa.
no,
and we are a team.
Oh
It
wait,
felt like
oh my God!
it was
This is like,
major.
okay, this is a little
You didn't feel
frustrating
on
for
my
me.
side.
So because she's frustrated, you think it's taking up for me? She was taking up for herself. I can handle myself.
Well,
She was frustrated. Meredith was frustrated.
Let's
Because
look
the
at,
same
like-
thing keeps happening. I feel like I'm getting labeled, and this is where I close off. I don't know if Angie's only deaf when it comes to me, but like, if she could stop trying to convince me to think exactly like her and would listen to me with the intent to understand me, we would get a lot further. Because I'm strong, I don't deserve to be held.
No, you do. But you may not realize that you are talking over someone, or you are talking louder than someone. Like somebody
just
like
who
her,
I am.
she's not as strong as
This
you.
is how I talk. This is how I move my hands when I talk. This is how I am when I'm passionate. I am me. I'm not changing. I'm like late 40s, and I'm like Lisa Barlow. This is it. This is what you get.
I've seen this movie before starring Lisa Barlow. You're expected to just agree, and I'm not going to do that this time. I came here with good intentions. So how are we ever supposed to move forward if she won't even hear me out?
I know who the I am, and I don't need everybody saying, "Oh, if you have good sides and like people get to know you, they'll like you." And
Why is
and
everybody
I'm like,
saying that to you, though?
because maybe they have a perception because it keeps getting perpetuated, and it's so f***ing annoying.
What if that's people's
It's an easy
experience,
out.
though, and you're
It's an
just not
easy
seeing
out.
it?
You know what? If everyone wants to think I'm a villain and a bitch and I self-centered, I don't really care anymore.
I don't think
I'm kind of
everyone thinks
over it.
that, Lisa.
I'm
That's,
kind of
that's
over it.
not the point of the conversation.
I'm gonna go, but I love you, and hope we can continue the conversation.
Bye, Lisa.
And exit. Right, but so when we look at that conversation, it started out with content, right? It was about the fight that happened at Lisa's Bezos party the night before, and Angie wanted to talk about how she felt people had ganged up on Whitney. Lisa wanted to talk about the specific incident of Angie sharing something kind of rude that Lisa said with Whitney, and right, like and then you quickly saw it, right? Then it jumped into, well, I feel like you're not being a good friend to me. Well, I think you aren't hearing. There was the one point where Angie was like, why do you think people keep saying this about you? I was like, that's a pattern conversation. So they sort of bounced around these things. But it just showed, right, like if they had just focused on the Bezos party and Angie sharing information, telling Whitney what Lisa said, that would be a very different conversation than the one that like they quickly jumped to, which is the dynamics of our relationship are not working for either of us, right? I'm not trusting you right now because you're running and telling stuff that I say that I think is just meant for you. I'm running and telling that you're running and telling that to other people. And Angie's talking about how like she feels like Lisa doesn't hear her. She doesn't feel respected. And she's like trying to be helpful, and Lisa isn't receiving that help. Right. So we quickly see like how, yeah, go for it. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Jeez Louise. Thank you. Thank you. Let me put this on. How do I put this on Do Not Disturb? Hold on. Do Not Disturb. Notification settings on this Mac. Sorry. Thank you. Let me turn that off real quick. Open notification settings. Thank you all for not outing me on the texts that are coming through. All right. Hold on. Sorry. This is annoying that it does this. Let me just move this over to my other screen. No. Is it the other way? Give me 1 second. This is so hard to do from up here. Yes, there we go. Sorry. Notification settings. Messages. I'm just going to turn this off real quick. Okay, great. That should stop now. Thank you. Okay, great. And now this is on the wrong screen. There we go. Okay. Back to good. Thank you. Okay, but yeah, so we see how like that conversation jumped around these 3 levels and how different the tone and what you're talking about changes when you bounce in between those things. So when you're thinking about that crucial conversation with your coworker, it doesn't have to be at the relationship level. You can just focus on the content level and immediate harm if you want to. When I'm talking with my friends about this stuff, I'm like, if you want to go deep with the person you're like having a conflict with, you can, but you don't have to. If you just want to focus on the top level, you can. So figuring out which level you're having this conversation at, really important before you actually have it. The next is starting with heart. And yes, this is like a little woo and cheesy, but I think it's important. And also like we're in a movement that's a little woo. So, right. Like we operate from a place of heart. So I think it's good that when we talk about having these conversations with our coworkers, we're starting with heart, right? When the adrenaline kicks in, when your amygdala turns on and your brain is flooded with adrenaline, like that's when we lose control of conversations and things go sideways. I have absolutely been in situations where like when I got out of it 5 minutes later, I was just like, what just happened? Like I felt like I lost control of like my senses and my body, and like all I was doing was digging my heels in and telling this person no matter what they said to me. Like how did I end up doing that? And it is because at the end of the day, like when the adrenaline takes over, we lose control, right? Like going back to the previous clip, right? Like we saw, like they started out in a like pretty even tone. I want to talk to you about things. And then it kept getting elevated and elevated. And finally, Lisa was at the point where she just walked out. So how do we break the adrenaline cycle, right? Because it will happen. It does happen. There actually is a way to break it. And so it is to, when you notice it happening, to stop and step back and ask yourself some questions when you notice it kicking in, when you notice that like you're suddenly not behaving in the conversation the way you wanted to and you're not getting the results you want. So first you ask, what is it that you want for yourself, for others, for the relationship? And then you ask, so based on those answers, how do I move forward to what I really want? And we'll talk about that in a second. Sorry, where's my mouse being weird? Right, so by asking these questions, sorry, give me 1 second. Nope, go back to previous slide. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just redo this presentation. Present. Great. This needs to be, sorry. Technical difficulties, again, first time. And at Netroots, of all places. Okay, here we go. Got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I could not scroll through my notes. Right, by asking these questions, you're suddenly re-engaging with the higher functions of your brain. Like the adrenaline might still be there, but you've also turned on like your prefrontal cortex. And it's like, oh, right, I'm being forced to ask difficult questions and like reason. And so now, therefore, like I can behave more reasonably in this conversation. But yeah, asking these questions also like forces you to get real, right? Like if you want to be right in the, like if what you want for yourself is to be right, then you will dig your heels in. But what if you want for yourself is like, I need this person to be able to work with me and move this project forward or like pull off this event. What I want for others, like what I want is for this person to understand how their behavior is being perceived by other people on the team and so that they stop causing harm. What I want for my relationship with them is that like we can work together even if we don't like each other. At least we like can productively make this happen. We can form our staff union. We can pull off this big event, right? Like those questions can drive you to very different behavior when you focus on just like, but what I want is to be right. And right, because then it moves into what do I do right now for what I really want? So we're going to watch another conversation between Lisa and Angie and see how like thinking about these questions changes how you perceive their behavior. So, oh no. Why are we in the loading screen of death? Let's try this one more time. Okay, we're going to just watch the plain file on my computer. Yay. Old school quick time. Look at this. Okay, now where's my mouse? Okay, here we go.
Henry, keep an eye on her for me, okay?
Will do. I feel like we got, like, off track, like, big time.
It's been a loss for me, I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like it's a loss for me, too. I feel like after my Bezos party, everything went really left. Like, you and Whitney being friends does not impact me and you. But I don't want you to choose sides.
We're here because you don't trust me.
I created distance because I was so hurt.
I don't know what I did to
Where
hurt
I
you.
try and like talk things through with you, I always go directly to you. Like even with Heather saying like Angie and like is basically saying you're a bad mom. I'm like, I'm gonna talk to Angie about it. I'm not talking to you about it.
I felt like you were being a bad friend. I never said you're a bad mom. You're a great mom.
I feel like it's been really sensitive with you and me because we are real friends. I don't like when anyone says anything badly about you. Like, I feel like I've defended you and Sean so much. And then I'm like, where's someone like, I don't need someone to fight my battles, but you could have my back a little more.
Lisa,
like,
I have had your back.
No, but I feel like you're like listening to Whitney on a lot of things.
I'm
and like,
not.
And like you,
I promise you that. I feel like I've tried so hard to prove to you.
You don't have to prove
that
anything
I'm
to
a
me,
good
though.
friend.
No, Angie, you don't have to prove that to me. I needed you to just say, I hear you. I hear that you're hurt and I'm sorry. That's all I needed from you because I'm like, listen, how many times is Whitney gonna lie about me? She's made up stuff about my marriage, my business, accused me of doing things I didn't do. I was just looking for you to say, I've got you, that f***ing shitty. I can't believe she did that to you. It doesn't mean change your relationship with her. It means hear me. That's so hurtful to me.
I'm going to apologize right now that I didn't do that. I know you would be there for me if I needed you.
100%.
You have had my back. And I think you do at times feel like you need to defend yourself. And so you're explaining, but you're not like really seeing where I'm coming from because
What do you need me to see?
I do love you, but I also need to be treated differently by you because I am super sensitive when it comes to friendships. I want to share something with you. I think growing up, there were times where my mom was having her struggles and like I probably didn't always feel safe. And when something is chaotic, I just get really quiet and I just try and stay calm. And when you get elevated, instead of like saying what I think or what I feel, I shut down. I think as a kid that I tried to stay calm when my mom was struggling. And I find myself doing that with Lisa, but I'm not acknowledging my own feelings and emotions and how she's making me feel. I want you and I to be resolved. It's just we've let this go too far. And I'm sorry. And I don't want anyone else to come between us.
Me either.
We've really never had a conversation like this before. Like, I don't know, I'm finally feeling like Lisa sees me. She's calmed down, she's willing to listen, and I'm hoping that we can move forward with a new relationship. And you know what else I just realized?
Why?
The Greek word for fish
Oh my God.
is psadi, and I'm psadi.
Oh.
I love you, Lisa. I'm sorry.
I love you.
Amazing. Yes, Angie's Greek. In case you didn't know, if you watch, obviously, if you watch Roslick, you are very familiar with that. Okay, back to presenting. Thank you all again, and now we have to reorder things. But yeah, as I'm doing this, but right, that conversation went so differently, because. Right, like I think what Angie said at the end, right, was really important, right? She was like, "What? Like, I want us to be friends again. I want to like settle this, put this, like, let's put this to bed. Let's figure out a way to move forward as friends." Right, and you saw them both talking in that conversation about like how they missed their friendship, what they wanted to get back to, and so so instead of the first conversation, right, where like it's clearly descending and it gets so bad that like Lisa just walks out. Instead, we have a conversation where like they hug at the end and decide to be friends. And so it is what, like, I do think, right, like If what I want is for us to go back to being friends, like that changes how they behave. And while they might not agree with the other person's point of view, they agree that like it's not a big enough deal to keep fighting about it, and they're going to move on. And so, right, like sometimes there are some times when I'm working with folks, I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to understand how this person is thinking about this issue or their approach. But like what I care about is that like we get this content out next week on time for deadline. And so like, I'm going to move past it. So the final part of prepping for like a crucial conversation or a Real Housewives fight is recognizing that like facts or feelings are not facts. But oh my gosh, do we love to think they are. I definitely love believing that like what I'm feeling right now, whether it is hurt or angry or that the other person is being a complete jerk, is the reality. Right? Like, for example, right, in a workplace setting, it's like, well, so-and-so fought me on these edits every step of the way. So she always does this, which means she doesn't respect me. She doesn't respect my work. And like, suddenly there we go. I've created a whole story about how the person I'm working with is a jerk and I'm the saint for putting up with her crap. And now I'm justified in like being snarky, making offhand comments, complaining to other people about her and her behavior, right? Gossiping. And so we tend to think that like our path to action is like, I'm feeling annoyed or like I'm feeling disrespected. And then we act that way. So I'm like justified in now treating this person this way because I feel this way. And so now I'm going to act this way. But actually there are more steps than just going from feeling to action. Because what happens is there are more stages. There is what we are seeing and hearing, and then we are telling ourselves a story, and then that gives us a feeling, and then we are acting on that feeling. So, right, to go back to that example, like this person, what I see and hear is this person rejected my edits to their content. She always does that. And now I'm telling myself a story. She always does this. That means she doesn't respect me because I'm younger. Now I feel hurt and disrespected, maybe a little oppressed. And so I don't trust or respect her. And now I behave in ways that communicate that I don't trust or respect her. And then like she digs her heels in because I'm behaving a certain way. And so now she is feeling the lack of trust. And so there might be more micromanaging or even more rejections of my edits, right? And so suddenly it's become a vicious circle, and we're creating our own we're creating our own reality through our behavior. And if we change that behavior, things might be different. That telling a story stuff, I like drug it out there, but like that can happen in a split second, right? Like happens all the time. But it's how we come up with meaning because I was a polycoms major, which means political science and comm studies. And like what I learned in comm studies is we are meaning making creatures, right? That's what we do. And so suddenly it's not just, well, Lisa Vanderpump said this one thing that like made me a little uncomfortable on our daily morning phone call. Suddenly it's, well, Lisa's a manipulator who is using Kyle to like perpetuate storylines, and she's not actually a real friend. And like, right, that's what happened, I think, season 4, and caused a like truly epic finale. But right, like very quickly we can like go from like, I was a little uncomfortable to Lisa's a master manipulator. I also want to say on the other side, like I can hear, like I also hear the internal monologue of like, but my story's the right one. That coworker is a jerk. Lisa is a manipulator. It's why she became the producer of her own show. Like, why can't this other person like just stop sucking? Why do I have to be the person who does the work? And it's because at the end of the day, you're the only person you can control, y'all. So like, as much as I wish I could like make that other person behave differently around you, I can't. I'm not God, if she exists. Like the only person you can control in this situation is you. And so you have to decide what you want to do. I also want to say, like, mastering your stories, and this is a direct quote from the book, mastering our stories isn't about letting someone off the hook for bad behavior. That person may be behaving in like bad ways and atrocious ways, in ways that need to be corrected. Instead, it's the first step towards addressing behavior through dialogue. So it's not saying that like someone treating a coworker badly is acceptable. It is, I need to be able to figure out how to have a conversation with this person to change their behavior. So here are a few of like the clever stories that the Crucial Conversations people have told us that we tell ourselves, right? First is victim. I'm innocent. I am an innocent sufferer here. I did nothing wrong. That person is entirely the problem. The villain story, we turn decent people into villains, right? Like I may have been able to have like literally just had lunch with her yesterday and we were getting along fine, but now like we're beefing about something and like suddenly she's not like my cool casual coworker. It's just like now she is my enemy. She is the villain. And it can lead to, you know, dehumanization even in terms of, right, like now this person isn't just like Lisa over in accounting, she's Lisa the asshole or the jerk or the bigot, right? And like now we've slapped a label on that person because it's an easy story. Or the third category is helpless. Like I'm powerless to do anything healthy or helpful here. She's a jerk or whatever, and like she's never going to change. And so like what can I do? But we are organizers, people. We are here at Netroots because we believe we can do things and we can make change. I don't believe any of you would be in this room if you didn't believe that in some way. Okay, where did my fixed it for you go? Oh, yes, sorry, it is a different slide. I changed it last night. That's why I'm confused. So for the victim story, when you see yourself falling into that, ask yourself, what am I pretending not to notice about my role in the problem? Right? Going back to the story of like, someone rejecting like all your edits, like is there a way that you're doing that like is not working for someone? Is there a role you're playing? Turning villains into humans, what would a reasonable, rational, and decent person do what this person is doing? And I want to stop there because I think that question like single-handedly changed how I interacted with coworkers who were frustrating me. Like if you take nothing else away from this training, and I put no colors on the slide because I hoped it stood out. Like asking yourself the question, why would a reasonable, rational, and decent person do what this person is doing can just completely change how you approach things. Because more often than not, especially when I was in like middle management, it was very easy for people. So, right, I was sitting in between the executive leadership and the junior staff. And like very quickly, people would take incidents. And right, it was like, well, like if they're motivating from a bad place, like here's why they're a villain. Here's why like I can't work with this person. And I was like, but like we have worked together for like years. Like why are we suddenly assuming this person is not a reasonable and decent person when we know from our experience that they are? I think this is why it is. I don't always recommend working with friends, but I did see how friendships made people engage in workplace conflict differently because they had a pre-existing relationship coming in. And so I was like, well, I know this person is kind and decent and caring. And so like this behavior seems out of the norm. Like, why might they be doing this? So I just like, if nothing else, this is the slide to take away from this training. And then lastly, turning helpless into helpful. Like, again, we're going to go back to those same questions when it came to starting with heart or the other section. But like, what do I really want for myself, for others, for this relationship? And what am I going to do right now to move towards that? So we got to change our stories. All right. And we're a little ahead of schedule. All right, so my thought is now we will move into breakout groups where we will do an exercise. I have 3 scenarios, so I would like to break us into groups of 3. So we'll do a count off. But the goal in the 15 minutes is you'll complete your scenario. Then we'll come and do like a 10-minute report back, and then we'll save like 10 minutes for asking questions. So if you go to bit.ly/N 25 Bravo. That will take you to the scenarios. You'll see, I'm just going to pull it up on my phone real quick, but you'll see it's a worksheet. So in the scenarios, there will be a couple of different people in the scenario. You should pick one person in that scenario who your group is now going to like inhabit and role play as. You are going to LARP as this person. Next, you're going to identify what conversations at the 3 different levels, content, pattern, relationship, what those could look like from that person's perspective. And then you're going to identify one clever story that that person is telling themselves, and then you're going to rewrite it. So we're going to go into breakout groups. I'm going to have folks number off. So I'm going to start over here with Melissa, and I'm going to just do 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, you're heading out. Great. Can I start over here with you on the green shirt? 1. Yep, 2. 2. Yep. Back row. You're 3. You're 3. That's okay. And then in the blue shirt, 1, 2. Purple. 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll come up here. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 1. Okay. So let's have 1's up here, 2's over here, 3's in the back row. But yeah, pull up that link. I will set a timer for 15 minutes, and then we will come back. Oh, and I should say, so group 1, do scenario A, group 2, do scenario B, group 3, do scenario C.